talk to you in a minute, but first I have to try to climb these ladders in just a second. So before we get going, before I climb these ladders and hopefully don't fall off, last week when we started this, we thought of it, we're thinking of it like a limited series on Netflix with 3 episodes where we're looking at basically the same story every week. You know, in the church, we often go from one story to another, week to week. We're spending 3 weeks in one story and just adding some color and context to it. But last week when I said we were going to talk about money, I asked people, when I said we were going to talk about money, you feel, and we got words like anxious, nervous, guilt. Someone used a 4-letter word that is not that bad, but I probably won't repeat it, you know. And I get it. One person was so honest as to say it makes me not want to show up, you know. So, whether you were here or not, if you were here last week, or if you weren't, what do you feel now? I want to check in back with you again. So if you lived through week 1, how do you feel? Or if this is new to you, how do you feel? When we're talking about money, I feel... You feel happy. Thanks for balancing the ledger. Yeah. Yeah? Intrigued. Where were you last week, Christy? Anxious. Now you're intrigued. That's an improvement. Where are you? More comfortable. Who else? I'll just sit and wait. Do we need to do a lap around the church or something? Wake up. Enthusiastic. The opposite of that. Yeah. Anything online? Come on, online folks, wake up. What do you feel? We had a lot of, more negative words last week. Well, I know that talking about money is a personal issue, very personal. A lot of people feel stressed, insecure, anxious about money before you come to church, and then the guy goes, hey, we're going to talk about money. It's like, great, now I'm going to feel worse about how I already felt about money. Anybody in that boat? You don't have to raise your hand. For the reason that part of it is, as I've told you, when I've spoken to people in the community, one of their top reasons for not participating in church is because they don't trust what the church says and does with money. Right? Here's my commitment to you. We are literally talking about in this series, what does Jesus say about money? What is his view of money? And what might it say to our money problems? I am not going to ask you to give directly or indirectly one time as a part of this series. This is not like, all right, let me tell you what Jesus' view on money is. Now let's pass the basket. That's not what we're here for. We are here for one thing, Jesus. To keep our eyes on Jesus and live by his Spirit. And if we're going to do that, we're going to have to talk about money. Why? Because it's in the top 3 for Jesus. He talked about it all the time because he lived in a world. He came to us as a poor person, a carpenter type who had very little to no money. There was no middle class in his time, and the upper class kind of ruled the world. And yet his movement was not closed off to rich people, wealthy people. In fact, we know that the book of Luke that we're reading today The writing project of Luke was funded by a wealthy person named Theophilus. Luke and Acts, because it took a lot of money to write something down, a guy by the name of Theophilus said, I care about this. Boom, get it done. That being said, Jesus had harsh things to say for a lot of wealthy folks in his time. We're just looking at what Jesus has to say about money and trying to let it speak to our hearts and our lives. Cool? I am challenged by this as much as you are. I read this story that we're looking at. I studied it. I've read this 100 times and I'm still deeply challenged by it. But here's what it made me thought of. In 2011, I had a nervous breakdown. And at that time, God was trying to invite me to the impossible. I didn't know it at the time. When you're having a nervous breakdown, it doesn't feel like God's next to you and saying, hey, come with me. Instead, it feels like God is nowhere to be found and you are alone. When you're having panic attacks, you're depressed at night, your world has fallen apart, you feel like the psalmist who says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Anybody been there? And in that moment, God was starting to invite me into the impossible. Because the good news is that God has come to the world to do the impossible, which is save the world, to restore this entire creation. God was inviting me fully into that work in the midst of that nervous breakdown. And I didn't know it, but here's what I was doing to my human problems at the time. For my human problems at the time, I was trying to address them with human solutions. I didn't know it. I had a lot of insecurity from my past. I had a lot of trauma, and I was using human solutions to try to get out of that. And for me, the human solution was achievement. If you know my story, it was ambition. If I can reach the top of the mountain in my dream, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to follow God, and I'm going to climb the mountain of the world at the same time. For me, that meant I'm going to get a PhD, and I'm going to be a scholar, and and it's going to be about the Bible. So it's for you, God. And here I was, on the one hand, it was okay, one step up. I'm going to climb the world, and I'm going to climb you, God. Are you getting nervous yet? I should have put these closer together. I didn't know it. This was my life. High school, I was that way. Get every trophy, get every grade, achieve, and read the Bible. I went to college. A little bit of a bigger pond, no big deal. How are you feeling? You nervous? Are you like, Ross, I wish you would get down? This is how God felt about my life too. Would you just get down? College, achieve. Get all the grades. I'm doing it for you, God. I'm going to go get my master's degree now. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to be a scholar, and I'm going to tell everybody what the Bible means. That's what you call ego. Yes! It was 2011. I was finishing my master's degree. I was applying for PhD programs. I was getting closer to the top of the mountain. And all along, I thought, man, my solution to my problems is working. I should have stretched. Luckily, I did yesterday. You can see how about one more rung up, I'm in deep doo-doo. If I try to get up here, it's no longer tenable, right? I'm not going to try to do the next one, I don't think. Okay. I mean, so, yeah. So, guess what? I didn't get into PhD programs. So, this one's done. But you know what happened in the midst of that? This one went down too. Everything that I thought that I was, everything that I thought I understood about God, over. I was full out having, I wonder where I put that stool. I guess I'll have to stand up here today. So be it. It's fine. I was trying to have my human solution to human problems. And in the midst of that, God invited me to lay down my addiction to achievement, my addiction to ambition, and my view of God. See, sometimes when we have some crisis, we think that oh, God, what you want me to do is just climb your ladder. That's how you work. I get a little better in my faith. Yeah, then I'm climbing. Ooh, I pray a little more. I'm a better prayer than I used to be. Yeah, this is good. Oh, I'm giving more money than I used to. I'm coming to church every Sunday. Wow, this is fantastic. Good Lord. God was inviting me to lay down my ladders, lay down my life, to humble myself and root deep down, not climb up into the person of Christ. In fact, that's the verse that saved my life. John 15, abide in me, you know this story, abide in me and I will abide in you. Lay it all down and abide in me and I will abide in you. The Father prunes those who abide in me so that they bear more fruit to God's glory. I've said these things to you, Ross, so that my joy may be in you and your joy will be complete. Complete. Remember that word. I want to read to you about addiction, my addiction to achievement, and it's going to get to our problems. I had what's called a process addiction. This is from an article that says how money changes the way you think and feel, from a Berkeley publication called The Greater Good magazine, how money changes the way you think and feel. I was not addicted to money at the time, but I was addicted to ambition and achievement. While a process addiction is not a chemical addiction, it does involve compulsive behavior. In this case, an addiction to the good feeling that comes from receiving money or possessions, which can ultimately lead to negative consequences and harm the individual's well-being. Addiction to spending money, sometimes known as shopaholism, is another more common type of money-associated process addictions. Earlier up in the article, it says these days the idea of process addictions is widely accepted. It involves a compulsive and or out of control relationship with certain behaviors such as gambling, sex, eating, and yes, even money. There is a change in brain chemistry with a process addiction that's similar to the mood-altering effects of alcohol or drugs. With process addictions, engaging in a certain activity, say viewing pornography, compulsive eating, or an obsessive relationship with money, can kickstart the release of brain and body chemicals like dopamine that actually produce a high that's similar to the chemical high of a drug. The person who is addicted to some form of behavior has learned, albeit unconsciously, to manipulate his own brain chemistry. When I got an A, when I got a trophy, when I got accepted to a prestigious program, I got a high like you cannot imagine. And when that was taken away from me, I was extremely sad. Extremely sad. Now listen to the story of the rich ruler. A certain ruler asked Jesus, "Good teacher, what must I do to obtain eternal life?" What must I do to obtain? Jesus replied, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except the one God. You know the commandments: don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't steal, don't give false testimony, honor your father and mother." Then the ruler said, "I've kept all these things since I was a boy." He was climbing the ladder. When Jesus heard this, he said, "There's one more thing." Remember, if you tune into episode 1, what's the one more thing? Sell all your possessions and... That's the third. Steve's got step 3. Mikey's got step 1. There's a step 2 in the middle. That's it. Sell all you have. Distribute it to the poor and come follow me. Just one more thing. There's one more thing. Oh, I forgot this one. Then you will have treasure in heaven. When he heard these words, the man became sad, just like me. His ladders had fallen down. He was extremely rich. When Jesus saw this, he said, "It's hard for the wealthy to enter God's kingdom. It's easier for a camel to squeeze through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter God's kingdom." This is the only verse. We're adding 2 verses in episode 2 today. We didn't read these last week. You ready? Those who heard this said, "Then who can be saved?" I think we mentioned that. Who can be saved? Jesus replied, "What is impossible for humans is possible for God." I just want to stop and ask you, we've looked at this passage now 2 weeks. I'm going to ask you like I did last week, what occurs to your head and your heart as you hear that story again this week with some new context? What stirs in your heart and your mind as you hear the story again of the rich ruler? You feel like for the rich young ruler it seems impossible? Yeah. How do you give it up? What else? What occurs to you? So Kirsten says if there's something that's really hard for you to give up, that might be an indication that it's a boundary between you and God. Yeah. What else? Someone says, a question we all have, like, is he serious? Am I supposed to, like, go home and sell everything? The only thing I'll say, pay attention to the words. Apparently he's okay with other people having this guy's money, right? Because he says, sell everything you have, give it to them. And come follow me. Katie thinks it's a test of faith. It's to see if we can trust. If we can trust God to provide. You'll see in the image up here, you can't see it online, sorry. The top line, you see it up there on the TV? All of our money says it, and God we trust. It's ironic. A lot of times when we hold money in our hand, we trust God very little. What else? What stirs in you as you hear this? What stirs in your head and your heart? Yeah. Josh's comment, if I could interpret it, is like Jesus could have mentioned 100 other things, and this guy would be like, oh, okay, I'm with you. But he mentions that one thing. Here's the question I bring up to you, and then I'm going to move over into us, and not just reflect on the ruler, but go back to us. I thought, man, maybe Jesus is kind of setting this guy up. We talked about this last week. It's like a gotcha moment. Man, I'm about to say something that's going to really expose this guy. Because Jesus is a champion of the poor. He says it in Luke 4. I've come to preach good news to the poor. He was in flesh as a poor person. And so, maybe he's saying something to get revenge. Poor people versus rich people. But you'll note that might make sense if it weren't for this last line that Steve said. Do this and come follow me. Jesus is not in the business of exposing people. He's not in the business of scaring people away. He is in the business of inviting people closer and doing whatever it takes to try to break down those barriers that we have in our head and our hearts of God's closeness to us. He's, like I said last week, it's like he took an echocardiogram on this guy and said, here's what I see. I talked to some finance people, and I've heard this from them before. I heard it again this week. I've heard in my last church, I know some people now, financial advisors, who say when they sit down with people, it's not the numbers that are the challenge. They can sit down objectively and look at someone's portfolio and say, here's what I see. It's the psychology that goes with the money. Their conversation is almost always a psychological, spiritual battle because of people's emotional attachment to their money practices. Jesus sees it with this guy. The one thing for this guy is that his God, he has two gods. He's got two gods, apparently, according to he's interested in Jesus. He's curious. He shows up curiously, Jesus, what do you think? He's got Jesus on one hand. On the other side, he's got what they called in Jesus' time mammon. It was the god of wealth. This guy was going, yep, I'm good. Jesus, what do you think I need to do? And then he gets to the point where he's like, all right, I think I'm ready to grow. I'm ready. Jesus says, okay, I want you to get rid of this and even this. Your whole view of God as a ladder you climb is wrong. Lay it down. Come follow me. Root your entire life and everything that you are in me. Surrender it all. And you will find out what the kingdom of heaven is about. Surrender everything that you have, and you will have treasure in heaven. Surrender your life. Follow me, and you will know the beauty and freedom of the truth that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The fact that you don't perceive that or believe it in your heart is actually a burden to you. You have some illusion in your heart that even a little bit of your money belongs to you. Who gave you the ability to earn it? Who created breath in your lungs? One time someone comes to Jesus and says, hey, should I pay my taxes? Like trying to catch Jesus. Again, not a good thing for people who tried to catch Jesus. He was pretty agile. And he took out some money. I don't think I have any coins on me. Yes, I do. Sweet. He looked at the coin and he's like, who's on that? They're like, what are you trying to say? He says, fine, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. Here's the irony of that story. That person might have walked away saying, what belongs to God? And if he would have known his Bible, he would have known the answer. Everything. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. I want to close today by getting practical. Someone just said, like, Ross, so how am I going to pay my bills then? I don't know what to make of these words still. I don't know if, like, Jesus really wants me to sell everything. I'm wrestling with that. I think I'll wrestle with it for the rest of my life. I do believe that what I've just talked about is the solution to our human problems. That truth, I believe, is the solution to all of our problems. A humble surrendering to the truth that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And that we wake up to what that means for our lives practically by following Jesus. An example of that, in the last 10 years, I've grown tremendously, not because of my own effort, but because the Holy Spirit has worked on me and my view of money. I see it more and more all the time, like everything I have belongs to God. Everything. And so I'm asking God, like, if I get $100, it's like, God, will you help me to know what to do with this? If I get a promotion, I don't know what that would look like here, or a raise. I'm not going to take one. But let's say hypothetically, man, I'd be praying over it like, God, what do you want me to do with my life? What do you want me to do with these extra resources? My realization that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it turns me into a generous steward of the things I have. If I don't realize that, I'm going to be an irresponsible steward of the things I have. I may not even steward it or manage it at all. The realization that everything that you have and everything that you are a gift from God. The minute you say, I think I believe that the earth, the universe was created by God, it's over. The game is up. You've just acknowledged it all. It produces in us, hopefully, gratitude and like management. Like, what do I do with this money I have? To close, last week I said, to get practical, I started to hit on this, and I definitely want to say it today. Do not believe the lie that, if you ever hear someone say there are basically two kinds of people in the world. Yeah, right. That's a joke. If there are 1 billion people, how many people are there on earth? Like 7 billion? Is that right? Spencer, you're an expert on this. How many people are there? Okay, let's say 7 billion. That means there are 7.2 billion different kinds of people in the world. Some people right now in our world legitimately need more. They need more. They need a higher wage. They're working hard. They're working full time. They need a higher wage. They need more. They need affordable housing. They need affordable health care. They need more. Yes, it's true. There are jobs available out there, and some people need to go get a job. Yep. But you know what? I have someone in my life who, if you look up the ACEs score later, ACEs quiz, it means adverse childhood experiences. If you score a 4 on that, you are 10 times more likely to use a really bad drug. I have someone in my life, because of the trauma he experienced in his life and the lack of resources he had, filling out an application was crippling to him. Crippling. Showing up to an interview and someone saying, like, give us 3 words to describe yourself. Unworthy, incapable, and maybe this isn't a word, fighting for my life. He needed more support. Look, I may not be a trust fund baby. If I am, I didn't know it. I wish I knew. But I hit the lottery when it comes to the emotional support I had as a child, financial literacy teaching, things like that. Not to embarrass him in the room, but there is a guy I grew up with who is like the most organized, detailed budgeting person on the planet. I hit the lottery with that. Some people need more. Right? Part of realizing that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it is standing up for those people. It's stewarding your voice and your life to be the more that somebody else needs. And not believe the lie that there are basically 2 kinds of people in the world. There's 7.2 billion different kinds of people in the world. Some people need more. Some people have enough and they're managing it well. And they feel fulfilled and stable because of it. Some people have enough and don't know it because they're mismanaging it. And they feel unstable and stressed out and anxious because of it. Some people have more than enough and they don't feel the pain of their mismanagement. They're mismanaging their money excessively. And they don't feel it until somebody smart comes up and says, hey, you have to declare bankruptcy. Those are practical things like that are related to our sense of stewardship. It's not just about, I don't think Jesus is just inviting us to a new view of money. He's inviting us to a new view of life. How to steward your life. How to steward your money. How to be a citizen of the kingdom of heaven 24/7, 365. And to know that your joy will be complete because of it. I told you to pay attention to the word complete. This is it for today. In Matthew's version of this story, the guy says what he says to Jesus. He's like, what about this or that? And the guy says, yep, I'm good with that. The man asks Jesus, what else do I lack? Jesus says, well, okay, if you want to be complete, if you want to be whole is the word's teleos. If you want to be complete, if you want to be whole, if you want to be fulfilled, sell everything you have, distribute it, follow me. Jesus is saying these things to us so that our lives will be complete, whole, fulfilled, eternal in God. So let's follow Jesus with our view of money. You finished episode 2. How are you? Doing all right? Episode 3 is next week. It's the finale. We're going to talk about this part at the end where his disciples are like,